we can't be so afraid to speak out against injustice and violence and predatory behavior, um, that we get, labeled as phobic, or that we get labeled with some sort of harsh name. And I want to respond to this comment. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones, and I'm a licensed therapist, and I've worked with abusive people. I've worked with predators, child sex offenders, as well as victims of abuse for several years. And I want to respond to this comment because I get a lot of comments about, I've spoken about predators, sex offenders, in particular, men who transition to women, and I get a lot of hate for speaking out against that. And so this woman, she says, "Thank you, Dr. Jones. It's so true. I have firsthand experience, unfortunately, but if you speak up on it as a woman, people will try to silence you by labeling you as some sort of phobic." And that is so true. You could be labeled as a phobic, you could be labeled as a racist, you could be labeled as a lot of things. And I'm quite sure, there's been a lot of people that have gotten upset with me over my post, but I'm talking about my experience. And I also notice that people tend to get upset and lash out at Black women when Black women speak the truth. Meanwhile, if someone else, typically who's white, says the same thing, they treat that person as though they're Jesus that is speaking a prophecy. So it's interesting to watch that phenomenon work and play out. It happens all the time in social media. It also happens all the time in the workplace, and I'm here to tell you, I'll be 46 years old soon. So at my age, I really can't afford to be quiet anymore. I'm not going to be quiet or be afraid or tiptoe on issues that affect my life, your life, and livelihood of others, just because people want me to be politically correct. It's not who I am. And I tell you something else. I work with attorneys all the time, and I've been working with attorneys since I was working in corrections. And I'm going to tell you something else. When I was in corrections, I was a top clinician, and it's not something that I'm bragging about or touting about. It's because I could work with any type of client, and they knew that, and I got put with a lot of extreme personality disorders, extremely violent people. And not only did I get put with them, but, in California, there's what we call, the Coleman lawsuit. It's one of the major driving forces. It's been going on for years that, that basically helps to mandate a lot of, the work that we do with inmates and things like that. And so they would pop up and show up and, observe the work that I do. And because I'm so good at the work I would do, I would speak to them and present the inmates to them. And whenever I present an inmate, or whenever I present a client and do a case conceptualization, I always have to present people not just, who they are in their offense and things. They also present them culturally and what they're going through and how that relates to mental health, and how that is going to drive the type of treatment that I'm going to do within them. And I have to justify that. I have to justify that diagnostically. I have to justify, that rationally as a clinician that can explain that to an attorney. And I still continue to do this all the time. So, anything that I post on here is available for legal scrutiny and manipulation. And so I'm fully aware of what I'm talking about, and I'm fully capable of backing up what I'm talking about with my experience, my research, and I write reports all the time, at least 2 or 3 a week, and where I'm doing literature reviews. So I'm actually doing bona fide research. I actually still do a lot of criminal work in the court system, again, which is backed up by research. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just some influencer coming on here just saying a bunch of random reckless stuff. I'm actually talking about, this is lived, worked experience. This is education. This isn't even 1, 2 years or 6 months. This is me. I have been gosh, I've been going to school for most of my life. So, training, all of that stuff. So, I'm fully aware of what I'm doing. And I come on here, this is charity work for me to come on here and talk on social media because I'm not getting paid to do this, right? So this is my education. This is my way of giving back to the community and talking with you all and educating you guys about some of the things that I'm seeing and have seen and have treated and have worked with. And what's interesting is, even the people that I work with, and I'll reference the male to female transgender, even the female transgenders that I've worked with, even they would agree with that. I mean, so again, this is not something that I would just like, say about a group of people and then, not, we've had conversations about this, and I've talked about this even with inmates. So, in any group of people that I work with, it's not about disrespecting, but it is about talking about the phenomenon, how to keep you safe, and what this looks like in real time. This isn't textbook. Textbooks read nice, neat, and pretty. In textbooks do not necessarily compare to what we see in real life, and it's not going to manifest the same way. So that's why I come on here and educate people, and I advocate for people. I advocate for men, I advocate for women, I advocate for all races and communities and things like that, but I speak about the things that I know, that I've seen. I also I call out abuse as I see it, and you will get a lot of hate as a person who's an advocate who calls out abuse. And I'm not talking about like I'm not talking about being constantly victimized. Like I'm being victimized. I'm just saying, like, when you call out things, when you have a voice, people don't like that. That's family, that's friends, that is your community, that is corporations. They don't like it because people expect you to put your head down and say yes, and just go along to get along. But I'm Dr. Jones. That's not my policy. Thank you for putting this out there.